Hi.
How you doing?
Wonderful. How are you?
You filming me?
Yes, I am.
Good. You need help?
Are you a police officer?
Yeah, I'm the chief.
Oh, would you like to do a fast interview?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of the Rayanne Show. Today, we're going to be doing a First Amendment audit at the Fountain Police Department. All too often, First Amendment audits reveal tyrants, but sometimes you get to see police departments who are on top of their game. Only 2 people approached me during this audit. The first person I met was a resident of the town, and I asked her how she felt about her local police department. Hi, good afternoon. How are you?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I'm wonderful.
I'm not trying to interrupt or anything. I'm just curious. Are they doing something okay or bad?
No, I don't have anything to report.
Okay. Thanks. I need to know because we live here too.
Okay, what's your impression of the police department here?
They're usually very responsive. I know that if you have an elderly family member that you're concerned about, you can give them your information and they'll contact you if there's a report of something going wrong there, rather than somebody with mild dementia, you know. So they've been very helpful that way.
Okay.
And if you want to get to know the police officers, they often go to one or the other of the McDonald's, the one by Safeway or the one by Walmart, and they'll have coffee with a cop.
They'll have what? I'm sorry.
Coffee with a cop?
Okay.
Yeah, we're far enough apart.
Yeah.
They'll have coffee with a cop, and the one family that owns both McDonald's will host them and have like free treats, and you can just come chat and meet them and find out, you know. So you'll know the face and the name of the person who you might need help from or who might need to stop you to ask things, you know. Somebody did steal my mom's car once, and they were able to reclaim it and give it back to her, and some of the possessions.
Okay.
You know, they were very helpful, taking good reports, being on top of it. It was a little difficult because we were pretty sure we knew who had stolen the car's keys, and we weren't sure who they passed them to, you know, but they were willing to go check it out and see if the person that she doesn't know for certain because, you know, eyesight, elderly. Yeah, so the best we could guess, and they were willing to check out what we said without us having to go up to a neighbor and say, are you the ones that came into our house in the middle of the night? You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that they're doing a great job.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, but you're a person of color, and there's been a lot of issues between persons of color and the police, so I don't know how they're doing on your behalf.
Well, generally what I'm doing is, it's called a First Amendment audit.
Okay.
Basically, a lot of people don't understand, but on like public streets and in public places, even in the lobby of this police station, you know, as long as the people can go there, they can record.
Right.
So in the past, we've had a lot of issues with the police chasing off journalists or detaining them. Not that these
necessarily
guys,
here but in general.
Right. So what I do is I, post up in a public area, shoot my video, and see if a police officer or even a citizen comes to stop me. And
oh, I'm not trying to stop you. I'm curious how it's going for you.
well, it's going actually pretty well because I've had incidents doing this. But so far, no one stopped me. No one said anything. So
well, even on the weekend, they've usually got at least one officer that is aware of what's going on in the parking lot, and if you're not getting somebody responding to the call you made, you can actually come over and talk to them.
Okay.
And they'll take care of it. It's really been nice so far.
Okay. Well, I'm glad the community's happy with their policing.
Yeah.
That's always a good
nice
thing.
to meet you.
Thank you for your input.
Yeah. I'm Victoria, if you see me again.
Okay, my name is
I know we're
Rayanne.
not really...
After being there for over an hour, I was approached by the chief. I needed to interview someone for a journalism class, so I decided to ask him. Wonderful. How are
Are
you?
you filming me?
Yes, I am.
Good. You need help?
Are you a police officer?
Yeah, I'm the chief.
Oh, would you like to do a fast interview?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Come on
great.
over.
All right. So how long have you been working for the city of Fountain?
So for me, I was born and raised in Colorado. I did 20 years in the Army. I retired in 2015, and then I came here and took over as chief of police.
Okay. And what would you say your biggest challenges are in policing the city?
Well, so the city is growing really, really fast, right? The city has exploded in its population. Over the last probably 10 years, they doubled in population.
Okay.
And we continue to grow very, very, very quickly. The problem is there's not a lot of money there to increase the infrastructure, right? So fix the roads, more parks. For me, as the public safety director, chief of police, more fire resources, right?
Okay.
So that the citizens that move here are safe, right? So that's probably my toughest part of the job for the city. You might want to ask about policing in general.
Well, yeah. Well, this is kind of impromptu. So I don't have
It's impromptu. You're fine. You're absolutely
questions
fine.
signed up. So,
Yeah.
what do you like about being a chief of police?
Well, I was an Army military police officer and commander. My dad worked in the criminal justice system when I was a kid, right? So I always kind of knew that's what I wanted to do. So I was going to join the Army for 4 years and then come out, but I stayed 20. It's cliche, but I want you to hear this.
Okay.
I generally deeply care about people. I like to help people. This country's not perfect. I saw that in my 20 years in the Army, my 3 years overseas, 5 years, 6 years in total. Right, so I've worked with different governments. I've been all around the world. I've seen different systems. It's not perfect here, but I do strongly believe we need good people to do it, be in law enforcement, and try and do it for the right reason, and make it better. Because here's the problem, and you probably know this, right? Last year was not a good year for law enforcement, right?
No,
There's
it
lots of
wasn't.
cries for social change and social justice and police reform. And I would just want you to know, and I tell this to everybody, I'm for those things. Right, I'm not a career cop, right? I didn't do civilian police the first part of my career. I did something different, right? So I have a different background. I have a different mentality. I worked with people from all different governments, different religions, right? Different countries. Here's what I always say, we're all Americans,
True.
right? We're all in our country together. We're all in this state. I don't know where you live, right? We're all in El Paso County, and to me, I've always encouraged all of us to work together. I don't mind the media. That's why when you show up with the camera and you want to do an interview, it's impromptu and we're here, right?
Okay.
Because it's my job, right, to help tell the story,
Exactly.
right? And we got to help the media. We got to help people. My belief is we're a very community-oriented police department. I greatly respect the Constitution, right? That gives all of us equal rights, and this is what we all strive for in this country.
Yes.
And this is fair to ask this: equal treatment under the law,
Yes. That's very
regardless of
important.
your color, regardless of your origin, your sexual orientation, anything, right? You want equal treatment under the law. And, we have work to do on that.
Yeah, I have to admit we do.
Sure, that's fair.
Okay, so I guess generally speaking, you mentioned the Chauvin incident. I guess, what do you think that departments like Minneapolis can do to improve, I guess, how certain minorities view the police?
Yeah, okay, so that's a good question. So, we could talk about that all day, right? I think I'm very proud. I've spoke on this issue before, and we did a statement on the incident in Minneapolis. And number one, it was criminal, I believe. Number two, it's tragic. Number three, it's horrific, the outcome. And then specifically, we as police officers, I think sometimes, most police are good police. There's bad apples in every profession.
Yes.
It absolutely makes it worse when it's a cop, especially today. There's a bad apple, right? Because then that takes some of the positive work that gets done, and it takes us all back, and it puts people of color against the police force, and it makes people of color that are serving in the police force harder for them to serve and do their job, right?
Yes.
And all of those things play out now. I believe it was murder. I was on the record that that's not any training technique we do here in Colorado. Why would anyone kneel on someone's neck for almost over 9 minutes and never render aid? And never even listen to the 30 people that are around you telling you that it's wrong, telling you that he can't breathe. It deeply troubled me to my core. So, that being said, what we have to do is you can't wait to build a relationship with the community when after an incident.
Okay.
We have to work very, 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 very hard, way before there's an incident, to build trust with minorities, with our citizens, with business leaders, community members, faith-based organizations, right? You have to work very, 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 very hard to build those relationships before the incident, so when there is trust, right, you can work through the incident. And we can fairly hold people accountable, period. Right? Because cops, look, and this is part of the problem, like cops are not above the law.
No.
Cops are held, in my opinion, and this maybe is my Army background, that cops are held to a higher standard. I hold my cops to a higher standard,
Okay.
right? And I think that's fair. I think the American people want that,
Right.
right? I think I hold my cop leaders to a higher standard. That comes from the Army. That comes from the way I was raised. That comes from my 20 years in the Army, right? And I understand if we enforce the law, there's a higher expectation that is fair for our duty, our conduct on and off duty.
Okay.
Okay?
Hey, now, recently Colorado voted to end qualified immunity.
Yeah, there's a new law.
Yeah, without that, I guess how do you feel about that as the chief of police?
Look, we looked at that law a lot. Listen, I'm going to tell you this. Many of the things in House Bill 217, that's the one you're talking about, we were already doing.
Okay.
Okay, it's not a big deal. And we didn't wait for a bill. We started being more transparent. All of our cops have body-worn cameras, right?
Awesome.
You know, if you were going to walk around the building today, you would see all of our cops have body-worn cameras, right? We started that in 2014, 13. First agency in the region to have cameras. I'd be very proud of that. Because it protects everybody. It protects the cops. It protects the people. It puts everybody on a level playing field. I always assume and tell everybody, everyone's filming everything today.
Oh, yes.
Right, you know the deal. I mean, we
Yeah,
walk around with our cell
I got two of
phones.
them on.
You got 20 cameras, I
Yeah.
got my 2 cameras, we're all filming each
Yeah.
other, right? So, you know, that happens everywhere, right? But, you know, the thing about qualified immunity that I will say, and it's hard for law enforcement, and that part of the bill is very difficult. You know, and would I do it differently in a perfect world? I would. But my message to everybody is continue to do policing the right way, respect people's rights, and this is right from the bill, de-escalate. If you see one of your fellow cops and they're doing something wrong, you have a duty to intervene, fix the problem, stop it, right? It's equally heartbreaking in what happened with George Floyd, is that one of those other cops didn't come and pull that guy off his neck.
Oh, God, I can't watch that video
Again,
again.
right? We wouldn't be here, right? We'd be dealing with that differently.
Right.
And he'd still be alive and we'd have a different outcome. So those are the aspects of the law that A, we were already doing, B, I strongly support, right? The qualified immunity is very scary for law enforcement because, you know, in our society, there's lawsuits everywhere. Everyone sues
Yeah.
everybody for everything. You know that.
Oh, I
You know
sued
that.
people before.
We have more lawyers in our country than we have about anything. There's a million of them.
Yeah.
Right, so those are the things that make the job harder. I'm just being honest with you.
No.
And it makes it harder for many agencies to recruit good cops. Right, it makes it harder. And then if an agency is down 10 cops because no one wants to be the police, then everybody that is working 12-hour shifts. It's more stressful, it's more demanding, and here's the problem. People are more prone to make an accident or to make a bad decision,
Okay.
right? In those circumstances, and then we all pay for the price for that. And oftentimes, if it's a bad accident and someone has lost their life over it, either the cop or a citizen or both, it's horrific. Everyone loses in that. Right, so I've always been a believer, right, to go back, that law enforcement has to work with our media, we have to work with our elected officials, we have to work with the lawmakers, and it works when we all work together and we all respect each other. Doesn't mean we agree, but, you know, we've lost the ability in this country to do this word, I'm gonna tell you, compromise.
No.
Listen to each other, respect each other's opinion, work together and try and find a solution, right? Those things are difficult right now, and it's unfortunate, and I wish it was different, right? But me and you don't get to do all that. We just get to do our part.
Well, I just reported, honestly, I'm pretty much gonna wrap it up, but
Okay.
my First Amendment audit, I
Yeah.
would have to give you guys an A+.
Good.
Yeah, y'all are definitely respecting the rights to
Okay.
photograph.
Absolutely.
And I'm also impressed because, we had a someone who actually came out of the way to tell me that you guys were doing a good job.
That's very nice.
Because he assumed that because I'm here with camera,
Yeah, it's bad.
yeah,
It's
that
bad
you did
there.
something bad. And
Yeah.
honestly, I just was driving through, I'm like, hey, let's stop by Fountain.
It's okay.
So do you have a message for the First Amendment auditing community?
Well, you know, look, in all things, I mean, I respect the role of media in our country, right? We all have a job to do,
Yes.
right? And many times, you know, the media in our country have been at the tip of the spear to, you know, to find injustice, to find corruption, to find processes and people and whatever that applies to that wasn't doing right, the scandals, right? There was just this movie on, you know, some of the cover-ups of the Catholic Church, right?
Okay.
There was a big movie on it, and it was media people doing that, right? And those are what the media is there for. There's media that was reporting in Vietnam saying that the government's not telling the truth, right? That is an absolutely essential task and part of our American fabric, right? So as long as that's the intent and the spirit, right, then that's fair, right? And you know, if you're doing the right things, then you shouldn't be scared of media.
Exactly.
I'm not scared of no First Amendment audits. I already had one.
Right.
And we passed that one with flying colors because we try and do things the right way down here to the very best of our ability.
Well, keep up the good work.
Right, and you keep up the good work, and I put on everyone's heart to be fair,
Oh,
right?
well-
And do what you
Yeah.
and I talked about, like, you know, call it the way you see it. Sometimes some of the auditors where I think they get a lot of line is they are very aggressive in reinforcing the situation. And look, this is equal for cops and auditors. If you reinforce it in that situation, right, either side,
Yeah.
then you can expect some portion return. And then it goes bad, and then both parties are to blame for that, right?
All right.
So I'm always very, very talking to and expect my cops. I said, look, man, there's a time and a place for that, but don't reinforce in the situation that you don't have to, and then be surprised when there's counterforce.
True.
And now you have escalated instead of de-escalated the situation, right? And now, you know, you're on the hook too,
Okay.
right? So everyone play fair, everyone's gotta work together. It's a good country, it's not perfect.
It's a great country. I love it.
Yeah, there's a lot of good police officers out there. They're not all good police officers. There's a few bad apples. Just like there is in every profession. There's some media that are bad apples. There's police, there's teachers, there's, you know what I mean? They're everywhere. But, you know, we all have to work together. And I think about, last message for you, okay?
Okay.
Think about a world, right? All of us. I say media, politicians, us, me, you, everybody. Think about a world where you picked up 911 and no one answered the phone.
Yeah.
Right? Think about living in that world. Think about that for your kids, your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, your grandma. Right? Think about the people that you love, right? Picking up the phone and no one comes, no one answers. And I would just say to all of us, we don't want to live in that world.
No, I
Right?
don't.
I've lived in worlds, I've been in country and spent many years of my life in countries where there's no rule of law. There's no functioning police force. And it's dangerous. And you wouldn't want to live in it.
I can't imagine.
Right? You can't imagine, right? Unless you've been there and lived in that environment. And that's always my cautionary tale to people, right?
Yeah.
And I encourage us to all work together before we ever get to that point.
Okay.
How's that sound?
That's great.
Does that sound good?
Thank you very much.
I'm glad you got a good
And what was your name again?
Chris Heber, Chief of Police, City of Fountain.
Okay, and could you spell your last name?
Hey, look, she's recording.
Two cameras.
I asked her not to, and she's still done it. See, look, I don't want to be on this. I don't want you to do this. Please take care of this.